So for some of you who don't know, I am the illustrious Perry James, and you're watching Hashtag Truth with Scott Larson. Cut! Somebody get that Zuckerberg guy on the phone. We gotta get Larson shut down.
Watch it all fall down around you now. Was it ever really worth it? Having your kingdom crumble to the ground because you never had the courage. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up.
Okay, guys, it's coming up April the 2nd, right here in Spartanburg or Bowling Springs, South Carolina. Come on down. If you ever been in American Pro Wrestling ring, come down and be a part of our big historic reunion show coming April the 2nd. April Fools from the 1st can come also, but you know, I'm talking guys like Stone Mountain, Boomer Payne, Shane Austin. I'm talking guys like Ken Magnum, Dirty, some of the guys you've seen for years, Elite, the guys that come in, the guys that's been with us through the years. I'm going to tell you right now, and if you want to know what American Pro Wrestling means to me, it's guys like I just named. There's Elite, there's Thunder, there's Timmy Anton. There's guys that's been part of my family for, Lord, 30 years. And now I'm actually wrestling with and training some of the sons of the vets that come through American Pro Wrestling. You know who you are. If I like you or don't like you, you're still welcome. Come on down. It's one time in a lifetime we all gonna get together. Chief Jay Eagle's getting gold. Not that I couldn't kick none of his ass, but come on down and find out. See your friends one last time before you go to the Boogeyman, and come see all your friends right here. 122 Builders Court, Bowling Springs, South Carolina. Hey, Chief, like to look at you. Come on down. I don't mind telling you if you're still ugly.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hashtag. I almost forgot the name of my show. That was so good. I believe you would kick my butt if I was to come down here and do something stupid.
Well, it ain't how mean you are. It's how mean you convince the people you are. So
there you go. Oh, hello, Chief Jay Eagle. We're here with Chief Jay Eagle tonight on Hashtag Truth. I'm going to let everybody explain. I'm going to let you explain to everybody how long you've been in the business and how you got started, sir. Go right ahead.
Well, I've been wrestling 45 years, and I won the race car the whole time I was in high school. I graduated in 72 and started wrestling in 75. How I got real started was there was a small gym in Spartanburg run by Cowboy Joe Gilbert. It was IWA back in, and he had a lot of students in there, and that's where I met One Man Gang and a lot of the other guys that come and went. And I was hooked. No more race cars after I got hooked on wrestling. And then I got to know Wahoo, and he had me driving him and Sweet Hanson to some shows, and I would drive 200 or 300 miles and not say a word, just hanging on every word they said. And I was hooked. Like I say, I've enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed physical stuff, and played a little football in high school, and then got into wrestling. Ain't nothing else I'd rather do.
Right.
That's why I still do it.
Right. I told you before the show, I'd never been to one of your shows live, but I have seen the video shows. I have seen you wrestle, sir. You're a pretty big man. I mean, you come out in full headdress and the Chief Jay Eagle. I've seen you, that's amazing. How did you become Chief Jay Eagle?
Well, I started out just wrestling as Jerry Eagle, and I went to wrestle for the Pafos, and Randy Savage and his dad wanted me to be Jay Eagle. So I went with it and got some coverage in some magazines as Jay Eagle, so I stuck with it. And my dad's part Native American, so that's where that come in. And, I mean, I got grandmas that look like Wahoo in the face, but, man. Oh. But, yeah, my dad was in a hunting club in Lawrence, South Carolina. And just out of the blue one day, he drove up with Wahoo, and I didn't really know who he was. But when he invited me to drive for him and Swede so they could drink. So I would go and drive to them. And I wasn't never been a real big drinker, but man,
Right.
them boys could put them down.
I bet there was some good road stories right there.
Oh, man, they've had them drinking and driving scaring me to death, but I'm still alive, so I wouldn't give nothing for those memories.
Right? You got a lot of guys coming on here. Luke Fury said, "Yo, that's my papa. He's training me."
He's training me more like it.
Pete King, who we had on just the other night, he is a promoter out of Wisconsin. He said, "Good evening, Pete."
Hello, Pete.
Mr. Jay Eagle is an owner and a promoter right here in South Carolina, sir. So you guys have something in common. Jamal Drock said, "What's up, bro?"
Hey, man.
Joyce Hall said, "Hey, Jerry."
Hey, baby girl.
John Matthews said, "What's up, Eagle?" You're going to have a lot of people on this show, sir.
Yeah, John's still training me also, so he's a good kid. I really like him.
Missy Childers, who set this up, and we're going to talk about a show that she got together. Also, you guys are going to have a reunion show coming up.
Yeah, she's always been hooked on the things we did at Chesney. We did a lot of crazy things. It was an old bar with a floor that sat down low, so we had a balcony all the way around the ring with people on the floor also. So never been another.
I've seen videos and pictures of that place, and I got here in 2009, and by the time I realized about independent wrestling in the area, you were on 221 up in Spartanburg, the little building right there across from Kentucky Fried Chicken right there.
Well, I started out a couple of years after I started wrestling. I run my own shows. So I got a old Palmetto gym in Landrum, and we run there every Friday night. And I run there till I got the call from Randy Savage to come to Kentucky, and he said, "Bring 6 or 8 guys with you." So I loaded Fan up, and we went to Kentucky, and they all got to work on TV. And he, I guess he wanted me to come back 2 weeks later. Well, the second time I carried up Rick Starr, One Man Gang, Gary Roll, which is a friend of mine, was there, and Bob Root, Pez Watley, man. I mean, it was something else. Ernie Ladd, Louis Martinez, Ox Baker, guys that I had seen growing up. I was just like a kid in a candy store. But I hit it off with Randy real good. We was the same age, and he told me, he said, "When you get here, I'll have you somewhere to stay." But when I got there, he handed me a pillar and pointed at his living room floor. So had that real thick shag carpet, So Miss Elizabeth cooked her breakfast, and me and One Man Gang, Rick Starr, Lord, I can't remember all of them. Anyway, a bunch of us slept in his floor for about a week, and it was an experience. And I traveled with their group. I was telling the boys last night, I remember working a show and following Ernie Ladd and Pez Watley to the show, and Pez Watley was driving a Volkswagen with a sunroof, and we could see Ernie Ladd's head sticking out of that Volkswagen about a foot, but you couldn't even see Pez in there. And, I can still picture that today, but it was an experience.
Oh, I bet there was a lot of fun back then.
Well, that's when I found out what wrestling really was. We'd like wrestle in Memphis one night, and we'd be in Johnson City the next night, and it would take us from the time we wrestled on one night to drive to Johnson City, and then it's time to wrestle again. You wouldn't even get no break. I mean, it was, and then I hurt my tailbone and still had to wrestle every night, and just little things that really showed me living in a car, sleeping in motel rooms with 4 or 5 guys, dragging the mattress off the floor and splitting the mattress. I even slept in big car trunks with a pillow, and I had more room than they did. So
wow. I mean, you hear paying your dues, but that is amazing, man. I mean, kids nowadays wouldn't know anything about that stuff, Mr. Eagle.
Well, you can get draws every night for money to live, because you're living out of a car, and time to come to get your check, you'd owe them money. I mean, but it was good. I loved it. I found out what the real business was. it's nothing like the boys do today. Go wrestle once a month or once every couple of weeks. But I loved it, you know.
So tell me, how did you get into being a promoter and an owner of a show? What convinced you to go from the wrestler to running a show?
Well, I won't really tell you the town, but I worked for a lot of people back then. I'm talking about hillbillies. I got paid with a pig for wrestling one time by a guy named out of Lincolnton, North Carolina. His name was Dean Willard, and he's actually related to George South.
Okay.
But he had guaranteed me $100 and got there, and I could tell he was nervous after the show. He didn't draw. And,
Right.
He asked me, could I follow him home? He wanted to pay me, and I said, okay.
He paid pig now.
He actually run a pig farm for somebody, and he paid me with one of those baby pigs. Well, I brought it to Spartanburg and sold it for like $50 to get rid of it. But
I think that's the most amazing story I've ever heard on #Truth, sir. I'm not even gonna lie to you. You have got a lot of fans, man. Let me catch up on some of this stuff. Matthew said, "What's up?" He said, "I've showed Eagle all my stuff." Joyce Hall says she misses you. Luke Childers said, "Hey, Uncle Chief." Missy said, "I use her to kick the heels in the head." I don't know what that's all about.
She's always been dangerous.
Nancy said, "Shared you out, Scott Larson." Thank you very much, Nancy. I appreciate that. Welcome to #Truth, ma'am. Michael Elliott, white bootlaces.
Yeah, he's been bragging me some for 6 years, and I ain't got them yet.
Worst? What? Okay, Ricky has a question. He said, "What was your worst injury or your biggest accomplishment?"
Well, couple of worse injuries didn't happen in the ring, but I ruptured my Achilles tendon one time, and still went somewhere in North Carolina and wrestled Bobby Fulton with a ruptured tendon. That made it worse. It's like a rubber band in the back of your heel, and it had pulled apart. So that was bad. I've had 2 discs replaced in my back. Last year, I got a new knee. At 67, I got a new knee. So it took me about 8 months to get over that. And that's about the worst ones I've had. I mean, I've had a broke nose and ruptured, sprained ankles and sprained fingers, and you know, it all happens.
I'm pretty sure you woke up many a morning wishing you hadn't done what you did the night before, right?
No, I was never like that. If I got hurt, my first thought was, when am I going to be able to wrestle again? That was my,
I got you.
know,
I love that. I love that about you, because that is awesome. That lets me know you are all about us fans, and that makes me feel good, sir. It really does. Lisa said, "Hey, Scott Larson, how are you?" "I'm doing fine, Miss Lisa. I'm sitting here talking with Chief Jay Eagle, having a good time." Luke Fury says, "Eagle don't want the smoke with me." Oh my gosh, we're gonna get some people that want to wrestle you already. Look at this.
Oh, I'm afraid I don't smoke what he does.
Oh snap! Jody Dobbins said, "Hey, Jay Eagle."
Hey, Jody.
Pete King said, "I'm checking this out. Just wanted to say hi." How you doing, Mr. King? Thank you for coming on the show this week. Joseph said, "Hey, podcast fam." How you doing, man? When is Luke Fury versus Eagle going to happen? He wants to know. He really wants to get you in the ring.
Tell him when he grows up.
Oh, okay.
Tell him to go make me a sandwich. He wants to do something.
Oh, man.
That's my boy. I mean, that's my boy.
Oh, she said, "Sorry, typo." Missy said, "In the Chesney Coliseum, I used to kick the heels in the head. From the balcony."
She's always been dangerous.
Right? Jody just came in. He wants to know, how many years have you been wrestling? I think you already told us that. But
1975.
I was 4 years old, sir, when you got into the business. I'll be 51 next week. I mean, that's a lot of years, sir. That's a lot of years.
I actually went to training for a little while, and they wanted me to start wrestling, and I had a motorcycle then, and I was riding a guy on the back with me, showing out, rearing it up, and we had a wreck and got road rash pretty bad. So it was still another month before I got to start after I was supposed to start. So it turned out good, and I mean, I wasn't even through with my training. They told me, get in there. We putting you to work. So I enjoyed it.
That's great. I mean, that's when you know you got it for the business. Brian, come on, Eagle. You get some of the bullet.
Tell him he's about dangerous as a wet wash rag.
Adam Cantrell said, my hero.
Oh, that's your son there. My illegitimate son. Hey, I'm gonna tell you, some of these boys have been with me so many years. They are just like my kids. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm gonna talk about that for a second because I'm gonna be honest with you, sir. I've been here. I've been doing this podcast for 5 years. I hear stories all the time. I talk to wrestlers, outside the podcast when I go to shows. I always hear stories about Jay Eagle, whether they're good or bad. And you've already said you don't care if they hate him or love you. They're going to come watch you anyway, right?
That's right. That's right. They always says any advertisement, even bad advertisement, is good. So.
That's it. But the thing that I thought was funny was I hear a lot of these people talking about you, but yet you turn around, all these same people come right back to you after leaving you. They come back and they wrestle for you. They come back and they're still on your shows. And I'm like, how can you talk bad about somebody and then you're still back there, on their show? And it just, and that made me realize that, hey, you're doing something right. You've been doing this for 30 plus years. You got to be doing something right.
Well, I'm honest with the guys. I mean, it ain't about the dollar. I'll be the first one to tell you that I've run the business all these years broke. But the guys know they can come wrestle. They can do what they want. I mean, basically, I don't overrule a whole lot. And like I said a while ago, we like a family. And you can wrestle for Joe Jones down the road every once a month or every couple of months. But if you ain't doing it every week, that's why my guys are so good. They wrestle 2 or 3 times a week, and it's not once a month. And
right,
a lot of my haters come from all these guys that's had a better idea. And I've heard so many better ideas, but I kind of do it my way. You know what I mean?
Right.
If I run a show and lose $500, it's my fault. It ain't cause Sam Jones come in, so I think you ought to do this, because I hear that every week.
Right. And I've heard stories, and again, here you are still today running a show every week.
and then a lot of people ask me, why do you use so and so? He's the shits, or why do you use somebody? He'll never make it. But I always felt like there was a place for everybody.
Exactly.
Everybody can't be a superstar. I mean, you got to have lower level guys. You got to have top level. And we all want so many guys worry about what they're doing. They don't look at the big picture.
And you never know. And I tell people all the time, people always tell me, oh, I hate backyard shows. I hate this kind of show. I hate that show. But you never know. One of them kids that you're calling garbage might be a diamond in the rough. He might be, AEW or WWE in 5 years. You don't know that.
Oh, man, Ron Killens, he walked in one night at my show, and he said, Eagle, look here. I done got in a little trouble with the law, and the judge told me to find me a hobby. Do you think I could learn to wrestle? And I said, yeah. So he got hooked up with Chris Hamrick. Chris worked with him. And it wasn't long. He was in the WWE, but I seen that when I met him. I said, this guy got talent. He's a physical specimen that can do anything. And I knew he would go somewhere, because when a black guy comes in and sings you a country song and does better than the white guy, you say that guy got talent.
There you go. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Missy said, we are family. Jamal said, Eagle, are you going to get back at Riker? Something happened with Riker, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I thought I killed him. He's still alive. I know what's wrong with him. His woman eyeballs Chief Jay Eagle. And That makes Riker mad. Love you, kid.
Brandon, who's watching us on YouTube, said, when will we see Chief Jay Eagle versus the American Diesel, the dump truck?
When we get him out from under his bed, he can't fight sitting at home telling us how mean he is. He's a nothing about dangerous as a wet wash rag. So,
Right.
but I love him. What can I say?
I love it. Chris Thunder Anderson said, just want to say thank you, Chief, for all you have taught me, good and bad. Thanks for all the opportunities you gave me and Blad.
And thank you for stealing my girlfriend. I love this whole gang, man. They good people.
Luke said, all are welcome at APW.
That's right. That's right. I meet a lot of young talent that just want the chance to do something. And I actually had a kid at my show Saturday night, and I never met him. As you may know him, Ghazi.
Okay.
Gonzo or Ghazi or something like that. Okay. Kid turned out to be pretty good, and he just wanted a chance to show me what he could do, and he done great.
Awesome. See, I love that. I love that stuff. Now, I heard from somebody, again, a lot of hearsay in wrestling. So I'm going to ask you straight. You know, you're in the hot seat, so I'm going to ask you straight. I heard that there's some of the wrestlers, not all of them, but some of the wrestlers get their name by going out into your ring, and the audience gives them their wrestling name. Is that true?
That was Jamie Earnhardt when he started wrestling. I mean, it's just like Rex Rumble. He come to wrestle for me. He said, okay. I said, what's your name, buddy? He said, the Hellraiser. I said, not here, it ain't. I said, you be Rex Rumble. And he's still Rex Rumble 10 years later. Or
there you
20
go.
Years later. And a lot of guys, I help them come up with their name. I mean, I've heard it all, and I'm willing to give anybody a chance as long as, you know, there's no cussing in it or something, but you can hear anything.
Right. I heard that.
We draw a lot of church groups, so I like to keep it clean. And if you know my wife, you'd understand that because she's the boss, and she don't like nothing like that. So I try to do a lot of my stuff by her rules.
I got you. Hey, I know how that is. Happy wife, happy life, right?
She'll come in the dressing room and say, y'all watch your mouth tonight. My church group's here. She can hear curse words and music that I can't hear. So just this week, she was on me about one of my wrestlers' music having cussing in it. And I called him, and he said, I already changed it. I said, well, thank you.
Right. Missy said, Eagle has always gave everyone a platform to perform. Joy said, country boy David Hall is Cone Papa. Christopher Burton of the I'm telling you, my mind just went blank. I don't know why. Christopher Burton of the Straight Up Wrestling Show, which you were on just yesterday, I believe, says
he told me he had the biggest audience yesterday he'd ever had.
There you go. See, that's sweet. Hashtag Truth is the best podcast this side of the Reedy River. Well, you got the best podcast this side of the Mississippi, so I'll take the Reedy River. I'll be happy with that. Man, I'm telling you, this thing is. I might have my biggest show, Chief. You got people coming in, man. Brandon said Twinkle Toes was Jamie Earnhardt, named by the crowd. There you go.
Yeah. I asked the crowd. They throwed out 3 or 4 names, and somebody said Twinkle Toes, and the whole crowd started, yeah, he's Twinkle Toes. So we went with it. He still don't like it, but I told him to, which he's not.
I don't know why he'd say he doesn't like it. He's got it tattooed on his arm right here, don't he?
That's because we made him be Twinkle Toes after the crowd. So, yeah, he's a nut. He's not like this year in South Carolina, so I haven't been able to use him.
Yeah, I interviewed him a couple of years ago, and it was something. It was a good interview.
Well, let me tell you my connection with Jamie. When I moved to Spartanburg, where I was there 14 years, and I've been at Bowling Springs 7, but I was setting my I was cleaning the building out, getting ready to move to Spartanburg. And a kid pulled up on his bicycle, got off, and come in and asked me if there was anything he could do to help. And I told him no. And he just kind of hung around and talked. And Then he come by 3 or 4 times. It was Jamie. Then he disappeared for about 10 years. Then he come back and said he's been doing a little time, and he wanted to come back to wrestling. I told him, okay. Well, he come worked out, but he wouldn't get his license. So then he disappeared again, showed back up years later, and actually had learned a little bit while he was gone.
There you go. Joshua Holland said every good man has a great wife. That is true.
Oh, that's right. I couldn't do it without her.
Jamal said, thanks to Eagle and APW, I have my wrestling license. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamal.
Missy said, ask you about fan choice shows.
Well, what that is we'll put all the heels in the ring and the babies on the stage, and we let the fans choose who wrestles who. We do that every couple of months because,
Nice.
a lot of times they can't pick out who wrestles who, but when you got all the guys right there in front of you and you can choose, they really into that and they enjoy it too. So,
so what is the craziest? I won't say craziest. What is the best match that you've seen that you've promoted? What is the match that you will never forget?
Woman scoring match. So what we do is, me as a heel, I'd go out and trash all the ladies and tell them, they good for washing dishes and having babies. But so then when their hero, whoever the good-looking baby face takes up for them, we set a match up. And we make our lumberjacks around the ring with belts, which is all women. And they beat me to death. Now, see, my psychology on this was if I get thrown out of the ring, I can outrun the women. Man, that didn't work out. The time I'd hit the floor, they was wailing me, boy. And then the baby face get thrown out, and they'd pick him up and brush him off and fix his hair and help him back in the room. I was so mad, I just destroyed that. That was Philip Queen.
Right. I'll tell you about them women now. You put something in their hand that they can use or they can throw. You ain't outrunning them.
Well, we always have a good crowd when we're gonna have the woman scoring match, and they either borrow their husband's belt or they come with one.
I bet they lining up, Chief. I bet they line up for that match.
It ain't every heel in the world that'll do that, but I think. If you make them come after you, you're doing your job.
Joshua says, any good rattlesnake Westbrook stories?
Yeah, but y'all wouldn't believe them.
Let me hear one. Let me see if I believe it. Let me just hear one.
Lord, he's somebody that when I would wrestle him, he would get out of the ring and eat out of the trash can. There was a pair of hand trucks sitting in the floor one night, and he was laying on the floor, and I scooped him up on the hand trucks and run him into the wall. And we had to pay for a dent we put in their wall in Lawrence. I mean, he was a nut. They was painting the ceiling in Packlet, and Derek Vandiker can tell you this because he's seen it. They was setting scalpels up to paint the ceiling, so we're fighting, and Rattlesnake hits me and climbs up the scalpel. Well, I go up after him. We had each other hanging upside down. No ring under them now. So
Luke said that's all factual. He's seen the tapes.
And something I get a lot of attention off of is I once wrestled on the water.
Yes, I've heard a lot about that match. Tell me about that and how that came about.
That was a promoter out of Lancaster, South Carolina. It was CWA, Carolina Wrestling Association. It was Merck Carnes. He was a smart guy, but he never did any promoting. But he put a show on a lake, and he welded 4 55-gallon barrels to the bottom of his ring post so it would float. And they had a rope tied across the lake. They would pull the ring out to the middle of the lake when you wrestled, and people would park around the ring and the boats and watch the matches. But there was still a lot of people on the shore.
In the middle of the lake with boats surrounding it and 2 guys wrestling in the ring.
Yeah, and then they'd pull it back to the shore and they'd have the next match. And the referee couldn't swim, so he wore a life jacket the whole time he refereed.
So was any of these matches like over the top rope into the water type thing?
Yeah, if you hit the water, you was out because they'd have to pick you up in the boat. The ring was actually up pretty high on the water.
Right.
And
wow. So did you wrestle out on the water?
yes, sir. I just if you seen a wrestler come into the ring with his boots on, you knew he wasn't going in the water. And I always wore my boots. I could not wrestle barefooted at all.
Right. So I have to ask you this. You know, I know from what I've heard of you, you are big on respect. Wipe your feet before you come in the ring, all that good stuff. Who taught you how to wrestle back in the day? Who was your trainer?
A guy, well, mostly me and one man gang and a guy named Rick Starr. We kind of taught ourselves because the promoter that was doing had the little training school. He didn't know a lot. I mean, he liked wrestling and he did a little bit of independent wrestling, but mostly I learned it with the rattlesnake Westbrook they brought up a while ago. And then when I got tied up with Wahoo, it was a different story because I was wrestling for better organizations because I started out, like I was telling you about getting paid with a pig. It was on the bottom level. It was promoters and auctions with dirt floors. I never did no backyard stuff, but I did a lot of like bar shows that was outside. But growing up around Spartanburg and Greenville, North Carolina, I mean, you had promoters like Horace Strickland, and he did a lot of park shows and man, I've got over 100 business cards in my scrapbook of promoters that I worked for through the years. And I hadn't, since the digital age come along, I don't even take pictures anymore, but my wife did through the years. And then people give me their business cards, a lot of wrestlers. And,
wow.
The first famous wrestler I ever wrestled was Brute Bernard.
Okay.
You remember him?
No, I don't. I have to say I don't, but I would definitely look him up.
Some of the older fans will know him. Him and Skull Murphy was tag team champions. And
okay. I'm writing his name down so I don't forget to look him up.
The first time I wrestled him in North Carolina, he beat the snot out of me. He put knots all over my head, hit me with a chair about 9 times, and then I wrestled him in another town the next night, and he treated me like a hero, man. He made me look good, and we was friends from that time on, and up till I called him a few years later, and his wife said he was playing with a gun. He'd killed himself. And
oh, man, I hate to hear that.
But his wife was a wrestler also, Betty Hawkins, and just somebody I met early in life, and he had a lot of Appaloosa horses. So there was a wrestling photographer named Gene Gordon that liked to take pictures for magazines. And he would meet me at Brute's house, and he would want me to sit on his Appaloosa horses so he could get them in the picture. And
I love that.
I got to know Johnny Weaver pretty good. But like I say, my hero before I ever met him was Wahoo. And that all come about through my daddy. So that was made us a little closer too after my dad passed away. And he would pick me up. My wife said, "Now don't keep him out all night." Well, Wahoo, as soon as I got in the truck with him, we'd pull out the driveway. He's like, "I'll bring you back in a couple of days." So
oh man,
he got me in a lot of trouble. One time I come home and my wife had cut up all my wrestling trunks. She cut the hole in all of them because he kept me out all night, and I had to start all over. Had my boots hid in her trunk for about a week, but it blowed over. But I had to get them.
There's a lot of people asking questions, man. We got a lot. Missy said, tell us a little bit about your time at PWF.
Well, that was Italian Stallion in George South. I wrestled for a guy one time, and he was a boxing promoter, and George was there. And he introduced me to George, and nobody really knew George then. He was just a kid I met in the crowd, but I seen the talent he had to start with. I mean, a tremendous Mid-Atlantic fan. But I would get George on shows with people that didn't know him, and I'd tell a promoter like Johnny Hunter, we'll work the first match, and George don't care about getting paid. He just wants to wrestle. And I'd work a show for him first match, and then I'd come back a month later, and he'd have me and George in the main event. So,
Wow.
yeah, and I got to working for Johnny Hunter. I got to work with Lou Thez. He refereed a lot of my matches, and Rick
The Luthez Press.
Yes, yes. And Rick Link worked for this guy, and I met a lot of guys that I don't even see anymore. But that was just one promoter I worked for through the years. Did a lot of early Georgia stuff.
Right?
Yeah.
You got a lot of people on here. Harry Bernard Taylor, the Straight Up Wrestling show. I keep wanting to say podcast, but it's show. Said Brute Bernard was great. One of the most entertaining wrestlers he's ever seen.
Well, he would walk in a circle hollering, looking up at the lights like he was crazy. And you would never realize how smart this. He was kind of like George the Animal Steel.
Right.
You never realized how smart this man was. Well, till he shot himself. But it's just he was entertaining.
Luke Fury said, "Do you have any good juvenile delinquent stories?"
Well, yeah, there was three of them. There was my son, Easy Money. They was AJ Frost, and they was Nick Fury. They was the juvenile delinquents. They was always two of them there, and they dressed in the orange jumpsuits and come out like a bunch of juvenile delinquents, and the crowd loved them. And those boys made good wrestlers, AJ, Nick Fury, and Easy, all of them. So, yeah, I got a lot of them. A lot of them I can't say on public, but
right.
Luke,
yeah, don't get yourself or me in trouble, sir. I don't need that. Who was your Luke Childers wants to know who was your favorite opponent?
Probably George South in my early years, because he could do anything and he could make me look like a superstar. And he was bad to call for. If I went over, he'd jump me after the match and say, "Pin me again." That's just making me look better. So that was something he come up with. And another thing about working George a lot in his early days was him getting color all over my gear, my yeller and my white trunks.
Right.
I'd get blood stains that couldn't be washed out. Because George, you'd lock up with him and turn around, he'd be bleeding on you. I mean, that was his early days.
Right. Without a doubt. Chris Thompson said, tell him how much you love Dump Truck.
Just about much as a toothache.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something about old Dump Truck. He's not the greatest wrestler in the world, but them people love him, and he's just like Boogeyman. He can drill them in with his voice, telling them he's a people person, and that's his ring. I mean, the crowd supports him, and, I got to go out and trash him a little bit.
Who is, do you think, of all the guys that has come through APW, who do you think has drawn the most people for APW? Who do you think is that one guy that everybody remembers at APW?
Now, you're talking a name or you're talking about independence?
I'm talking about for your American Pro Wrestling. What was the name that if somebody walked up to you and said, Jay Eagle, other than yourself, who is American Pro Wrestling? What would your answer be?
Nick Fury.
Okay.
He's stuck through thick and thin, and somebody trashes me, it pisses him off, and that's just the way he is. Like I say, I love him boys, and
that's awesome.
A lot of it ain't just wrestling respect; it's respect of each other. And but they've been a lot of them. Timmy Anton, Boomer Payne, they all come from me. Boomer didn't come from me, but he was a dumbass when he moved down here from Pittsburgh.
I heard about some matches that they had. They showed me the matches that they had.
Southernized, he was a little better feller, but yeah, I love working with Boomer too. He'd always tell me, "Put me anywhere on the card but behind you." I say, "Why?" He says, "Because you do everything I do." So I said, "Okay." Timmy Anton, he's a nut, and he was with me so long, man. I tell you, Timmy was my right hand man. And
I heard one night, I believe Timmy was involved in this, where we talk about receipts. Us old school guys who the way guys used to come through wrestling. A lot different nowadays than it was back then when you were coming through, paying your dues. You know what I'm saying? And Timmy Anton was telling me there was one guy at APW who just wouldn't quit running his mouth, and he was doing it outside of the ring, not inside the ring. He was doing outside the ring. So they had to give him a receipt, and they beat that poor bloody boy to a pulp out there. They got video of it. It was at APW.
Well,
wow.
Go ahead, Scott. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, but I would.
Another guy that showed up, and he does the Ric Flair gimmick. He's from like Alabama or something. You may know who I'm talking about. I can't even think of his name. Paul something.
Okay.
Paul Lee.
Yeah, Paul Lee.
I show up one night, and I got a limousine sitting in my front door. It's got Nature Boy on the tag, and I think, well, this is good. So I go in, and that's who it is. This is Paul Lee. He's got him a Nature Boy limousine.
Right.
Like Ric Flair, plays his music, does the whoo and everything, and wanting to know if he could work. And I said, yeah, I ain't got no problem with it. So he worked, and I think I give him like $50. And he said, well, you still owe me $150 for my limousine. I said, what? He said, well, I wanted people to think Ric Flair was here, so I ran the limousine. I said, well, I hate it, buddy. I mean, we even got in a heated discussion. And Timmy Anton was one of the two that come there and told him to get out of the building. He wasn't getting no 150. Well, I hadn't seen him, and I've been booked against him a couple times, and he didn't show up since then. But that was a weird story.
Right, without a doubt. Harry Bernard Taylor said, tell Scott the move you borrowed from Brute Bernard.
That's where I'm walking in circles pointing at the light. and the crowd will be doing it with me, even if I'm heel or baby, they'll start doing it with me. So,
right,
I just do what I can to keep them entertained.
There you go. Christopher Burton said, Eagle, we love you. Thank you for all you have done for the business. Hashtag respect.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you much. Enjoyed my time with you guys.
There you go. Joshua wants to know, does he know how Cougar Jay is doing? Haven't seen or heard anything out of him in years.
Yeah, Dion Moore. I talk to him pretty regular. He lives in St. Augustine, Florida, and he's got a souvenir store where he's got wrestling souvenirs in there, and he also does a tour through town with a little horse carriage. But he wrestles for me is Sonny Stone, but that was Cougar Jay from the Mid-Atlantic area. But,
okay.
Yeah, he's real talented. His wife's talented, and she's got a comedy club down there. But I talk to him about once a month. We've always stayed in touch.
Jamal said, what is your thought on the way of the world of wrestling, how it evolved into what it is, and where do you see it heading?
Well, it'll never be like it was. The territory days was good. You could go somewhere if you had hard feelings or didn't get over, you could go somewhere else. And now it's, unless you're working independent wrestling, which you can do it in independent wrestling, it's just not the big money. And
right.
As far as WWE, unless they got something going on that catches my eye or attention, I usually don't watch it. But I do watch some AEW out of seeing Cody Rhodes and some of the guys that I've crossed paths with on there. And so I guess I would go with AEW right now. Now if I had to kiss ice, it'd probably be Vince's, though.
Right. Hey, nobody's gonna beat Vince ever. Even when he dies, he's gonna be running WWE from his grave. You know that, right?
Well, I can relate with him. I know not the money thing, but I can relate with dealing with so many characters and different people, egos and attitudes. And the thing about it, when a wrestler's got an ego or attitude and he's hard to deal with, he's usually one of the best wrestlers you got because of that ego and attitude. But it's I had a show one time at a gentleman's club, and the man come out and told me that his girls was just like my wrestlers. They was always ill at each other, and if you did something to elevate run, another one wants to know why it wasn't him. And I said, well, I understand what you're dealing with. My wife said a nursery is the same way. So, you know, something
Right.
I learned.
I mean, I've been sitting here we've been on for almost 45 minutes, and I've seen a lot of these kids on here, and I say kids because they're younger than me. Calling you Papa, calling you, saying, you help them in there. How does that make you feel that you've got so many people that come back and want to hear your stories? They want to learn from you. They know the knowledge is there. How does that make Jay Eagle feel that you're a mainstay in independent wrestling here in our area?
Well, I feel respect from a lot of them. If I wrestle these young muscled up guys, I see they're nervous because they're wrestling me or something like that. But it gives you a big head. I mean, you appreciate it. You would not believe how many kids at wrestling call me Papa that I don't even know. I don't know whose kids they are, but I love every one of them. And
Right.
actually, I got a group of teenagers that's always been my biggest haters. But now they've done had a U-turn. They cheering for me every week now because I entertain them,
Isn't that amazing how that works? I got a poster right back here of a group called the Unbookables, and you named a few of the Unbookables, which is like Eric Anton, Boomer Payne, Mike Madden, things like that. And you've seen every one of them. I know you have.
They've all worked for me, and I just call them Idiots Incorporated.
But they have a great heel faction, and I love to hate them. That's what I love to do. I love to hate them. That's why I get up every morning cussing at this poster, and it makes them feel good.
Well, I've actually talked to a couple of them. We tried to figure out how I could come maybe work a match with them and then leave and go to my building, and they all for it every time. But in the South Carolina, you got to be present at your show if you're a promoter. So
right.
That's one reason I don't want to dump it on my wife or something.
Right.
AJ Frost and Tyler Storm and a lot of them guys really helped me a lot putting the show together, because when you're not dealing with no financial backing, you can't blame somebody for not showing up. And I don't. I might get mad if they don't let me know. I go in there and find out they ain't gonna be there, and everybody knows it but me. And communication's everything.
Right.
That was
so you run a weekly show. How long has your show been weekly?
Since about 1989.
Ooh.
No, wait a minute. Let me back up. Yeah, before then, because I run different buildings, so you can look at that different ways. But yeah, I tell the guys, you got to think ahead. You just can't wonder, what am I going to do this week? You got to think, well, that's got to lead into something next week, or it don't make sense.
Right. I mean, I've heard stories. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I've heard stories of you, like you said, you ran a place here in Chesney. I've heard a ton of stories about that. I heard about the building up in Spartanburg, where I'll tell you, the first time I realized it was independent wrestling here, and this is the honest to God's truth, we were driving me to the hospital. I've got a bunch of medical problems. Everybody knows it. I was driving to the hospital, which is right up the road from where you used to wrestle. And I came driving by there, and you had a wrestling show outside. You put the cage outside your building.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
I was driving home, and I looked over while that show was going on, and I went, oh, my goodness, I'm going to have to check that out one of these days, because I watching wrestling.
I had 2 rings in. I had one in the building, and we'd have the show, and then we'd have the main event outside, because the people would already be outside. They'd get their cars and go. But, yeah, that was something we did quite a few times. And then some luchadors come along and wanted to buy my cage and my ring, so I loaded them up, so I hadn't done any of those since then. And another thing, I couldn't get the cage in the doors in Spartanburg. So I had to have the cage match outside. And I have tried setting the cage up and doing all matches in the cage, but that don't usually work out, because it's not no spectacular to have a cage match if you done had 5 more before it. So something I learned by doing.
Right. I mean, after the second or third match, you've done and seen everything you could see in a cage, right?
I mean, what can you do in a cage but let you jumping off? And
I gotcha.
I've always had nuts like Chris Hamrick or my son Dusty Money that don't mind jumping off, but there's some guys that jump around like kangaroos.
What's the craziest thing you've ever done in a wrestling match?
I don't know. I've done quite a few. Some of the early promoters would they'd like you to wrestle all over their building. Probably that scalpel we climbed up on, or I don't know. I've done a little everything.
Wow. So that is crazy. Who is somebody that you helped out when they were younger in their career and you haven't seen them since that you would like to see?
Kid Cash, David Cash, Johnny Eagle, which is a Native American that lives at Cherokee. I don't see him anymore. And we was Johnny and Jay Eagle for 10 years and worked the North Carolina coast. That was American Championship Wrestling, which was bought from Nelson Royal, which was Atlantic Coast Wrestling. So they kept the letters ACW. And then he run for 10 years. That was Chad Rocco, Midge Scood, and quite a few others that was tied in with them. And then we got sponsors was Hooters. So we all got to go to sponsors and eat after the shows. And that was nice. So eventually, having too many chiefs, they started falling out. I mean, I was the chief, but I wasn't running the shows. I didn't have money in it.
I can imagine you, Chief Eagle, and a couple of your comrades going into a Hooters. I bet there's some stories there.
But wait, most of those times my wife was with me, so I was on best P's and Q's in Hooters. I could look, but I couldn't touch, and I couldn't look for long. I get caught with a hand across the mouth. But no, I'm making fun of my wife, Rhonda. I couldn't do it without her, man.
You know your wife's watching #Truth right now, and I can see it in your face that you're watching what you say.
Well, she'll see this. She teaches at the hair college. She trains people to do hair. And,
that's great.
She works all day, and then she gets off a little bit and goes to the hair college. So she probably won't see it for a day or two, but she knows. She was my high school girlfriend, so she knows me.
Without a doubt. So I'm gonna put the poster up here. When Missy came to me and said, Scott, I want to do a poster. We're gonna do a show. We got all these wrestlers we want to put on the poster. I thought I kind of want to make. I kind of wanted to make it old school. I didn't make it too old school, but the old school blocky, style on a poster.
Yeah, Mike Ellison does that for me a lot.
But here's the poster right here. I'm going to give the information real quick. American Pro Wrestling Reunion at 122 Builders Court in Boiling Springs. It's going to be on April 2nd, 2022. Tickets are $10 at the door. Doors open at 7. Bell time's at 8. Look at all these wrestlers, and there's going to be plenty more, ladies and gentlemen. I couldn't put everybody on the poster. There's probably going to be at least 50 wrestlers there. Chris Thunder Anderson's going to be there. Stone Mountain. I've heard stories about this guy. This guy's name is the most correct name I've ever heard in my life. Chief Jay Eagle right here is going to be there. The Juvenile Delinquents, Boomer Payne, Ricky Rocket, Steve Stasiak, Eric Anton, and many more. I'm going to be putting a video together of a lot of these gentlemen talking about why APW is so special to them. And you saw the promo at the beginning of the show where Jay Eagle was talking. This is going to be a great show, sir. So how did this come about?
Missy, Miss Blabbermouth Missy, but we love her to death. No, she's always been a fan of what we did at Chesney. I mean, I got barred from the building. I was the masked highway patrol, looked like the Lone Ranger, sort of. Yeah, and then I've been barred from the building, and Granny Eagle would come in and take up for me. I mean, just do what I can to keep the people entertained. And Missy has brought up a couple of times, was the highway patrol going to be there? But you remember the old music from Junior Brown?
Yeah.
Wake up, boys, it's the highway patrol. Yeah. Well, that's where that comes from.
Okay.
So you have 2 or 3 heels beating up a baby face, and that music would hit, and the crowd would just roar. I mean, he'd come running in the door, and they'd cut the lights down, and he'd do his thing, and he was gone. So it was kind of like a Midnight Rider with Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, that's cool. Man, I wish I would have been there. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, just trying to come up with something. Just for instance, current events. A lot of times we'll follow current events. I mean, I remember when George Bush was doing a interview in Japan, and one of the guys throwed a shoe and hit him. Do you remember that? I couldn't wait to get back to APW to hit somebody with a shoe because I didn't like what they said. So.
Oh, that's great. I love that. So here's one of my questions. You said you've been running weekly, and this has been going through my mind this whole show. You've been running
shows for other people through the week.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying for your show specifically, you've been running it since you said 1989 until now, probably further than that. You said every week,
but I changed the name of it like 4 times.
Right.
APW.
Right. So how do you keep it fresh? How do you not run into rerunning storylines and things like that? How'd you keep it fresh for 30 plus years?
Well, you got to have some storylines, especially where you got the same wrestlers there. You gotta get that man soap opera spill to it. A lot of times it's not just a wrestling matches. You want to make a stipulation like for a belt, or maybe one wrestler flirts with another wrestler's girlfriend, or one of them stole the other's robe, or something to create a little drama. And the people in the South love that. I mean, you go in there and roll around with anybody, but a lot of times if I'm wrestling a baby face that the crowd loves, I got to go out and remind the people he reminds me of them. Just to create a little, they'll know who the baby face is, because as the Indian gimmick, I still get cheered a lot, but it don't take me but about 2 minutes to turn them against me. So,
right.
What to do.
Oh gosh, I have to admit I didn't watch all of your interview yesterday, but I guarantee you told this story if Chris is telling me to have you say it on my podcast. Tell us the story about your mom getting in the ring.
Well, in my first couple of months of wrestling, I wanted to take my mom and dad and show them what I was doing. So I go to wrestling and carry mom and dad, and which she didn't have as much fear of me wrestling as she did my little brother later on. But anyway, I don't want you to get hurt. I said, okay. So me and somebody, I don't remember who, is wrestling 2 masked guys, the Bandits. They dress just alike. I mean, their masks, their outfit, they could swap places and you couldn't look and tell which one it was. Well, they're beating me up in the ring. Every time I start making a comeback, they'll switch places and nothing's on me. And so they'd switch again. So I'm on the mat, and I just happened to notice my mama standing over me. She got in the ring saying, she looked down at me and she said, "Jerry, get the hell out of here." I said, "Mama, you get the hell out of here." She said, "Get out of here." I said, I had to stand up and tell her to get out of the ring, and the crowd was cheering for her. And then for years after that, the wrestler would say, "Well, I ain't wrestling Eagle if his mama's with him." So embarrassed my dad to death. He said I couldn't get her to sit down, but it was an experience. I mean, it's something. I love her. She's been gone for years, and I still think about that as being part of my wrestling. So
that is a great story. That is probably one of the best stories. Again, you got a lot of stories. I would love to sit down with you outside of hashtag, just sit down and listen to some of the stories, some of those stories you can't tell on the air, some of the road stories and things. I would love to sit down and listen to that.
Let me tell you nothing, because I miss this fella. He's dead and gone. His name was Buck Forrester. He wrestled as the Crusader. He looked like Mr. Wrestling. He had his white mask and all. Well, we wrestled every Monday night in Johnson City, Tennessee for Charlie Babb. So I rode up there with him in his van one week, and we put our suitcases in the trunk. Well, across from where we were wrestling, there was a bank. And we get there like 4 o'clock in the evening, and he parks in the bank parking lot. We get out, he puts his mask on. We get our suitcases out of the back. And before we got out of the park lot, there's about 10 police cars flew into the parking lot, made us lay on the this was in August, made us lay on the hot pavement on our belly while they checked out that we was wrestlers going across the road. Because they thought we was going in the bank with the mask on. And we both had suitcases.
Wow.
The biggest thing I remembered about that was how hot the pavement was where they made me lay on my belly. And then the promoter come over saying, I don't know who they are. I ain't never met them. And we didn't think it was funny. He did. They got a kick out of it, but we was pissed off. But I remember I got my clothes dirty and everything laying on the pavement. But,
oh, man. I bet that really made you hot when he came over. I mean, he was ribbing, but he came – right? He come over and said, I don't know who these guys are. They put on a mask on their own.
And I'll tell you something else where she ribbed me one time, my wife. I used to wrestle Chaz Rocco a lot. I don't know if you remember him, but I was heel. It took me a year or two to get the promoter to let me work heel because he wanted me to be a babyface. But I turned heel and I'd work Chaz every week. Well, something we done in the matches, I'd give him a backdrop. I'd shoot him for a second when he'd sunset flip me, and he would pull my trunks down just enough to show the top of my crack. I would act embarrassed. I'd pull them back up and tie my string, and the crowd would be all laughing at me, and I'd be trying to show I was humiliated. Well, when we got to the dressing room, the police was waiting on me. As soon as I walked in the door, they handcuffed me. Said they had me for a bit indecent exposure. And I said, wait a minute. He pulled my trunks down. I didn't. Y'all get him. So anyway, my wife comes out behind the wall, and the promoter and my wife and the police all laughing at me.
That's good.
That was a college show, too.
Oh, that's good.
She still reminds me of that.
Now, Vicky has something here. I'd love to hear this story. I remember in '97 when Jay wrestled Buddy Landell in APW in Chesney.
Yeah, Buddy was with me a long time. Actually, we got to be friends when I wrestled for the Poffos. He was just a young kid, and they would team me and him up as a babyface tag team. And after I got back down here and he got settled, he started working for me. He had worked for Crockett off and on, and he'd have fallen out with them, and he'd call me. And there was a girl that wrestled or that worked for me that talked to him personally, and she'd say, well, Buddy wants to come down this week. So I had an open door policy. I still do with the Barbarian and some of them. If they don't have anywhere to go, they'll call me. And Bobby Fulton and Ricky Morton and a lot of them. Ricky had some cancellations back during the COVID, and he would call and say, are you running this week? And I'd say, oh, yeah. But then they shut me down, too.
Right. Yeah,
we
don't want to get into politics and that COVID stuff because that ruined wrestling for a little bit.
For 6 months, they wouldn't let me run. Then I got a power bill for $3,600. I said, oh, Lord. I never got that paid, but we did.
Ooh. Wow. That's some crazy stuff.
Sent me no bill for 6 months and then sent me one for $3,600.
Wow. Joshua said some of the greatest matches I've ever seen was Ring Lords versus Jay and Wahoo.
Yeah, I love working with them boys. Oh, TJ Boss and Speedy Gonzalez, they was good. And me and Rick always had something we would do that I didn't do with nobody else. When we was locked up, we'd never break the lockup, but we'd go over the top rope to the floor and still be locked up. And it's just something nobody else done that we started doing. And like I say, when I come back from working for Randy Savage, I'd never seen in the Mid-Atlantic area the wrestlers get out of the ring in the crowd. But Randy'd do that up there, so I had to come back home and do it. And so, I love the way Boogeyman goes through the crowd and kisses and hugs everybody because they just, he's got more charisma in his fingers than some guys do in their whole body. And that's what I love about Dump Truck. He's got that charisma with the people.
Right. Without a doubt. James said, hey, Jay, it's the Drifter. April 2nd is my 60th birthday. I've never wrestled for APW, but I did wrestle you in Leland, North Carolina back in the early 90s. It was great to be in the ring with you. I sure wish I could still do it. Thanks for all you do. Going to try to be there the 2nd.
Oh, I remember the Drifter, man. I loved them boys. They was Barry Rose and Bobby Rose and the Drifter and all them boys. I think it's Hickory or Lenore. I don't remember where, but up around that way.
Right. Wow.
Like, and then, there's so many little towns up there.
Right. Ace said, hey, Chief, I'm a big fan.
Thank you, Ace. Appreciate it, buddy. Stephen
Fry said, Chief.
Steve, go fix me a sandwich while you ain't doing nothing. That's nothing from my young days.
Missy said, JW Boss.
Yeah, that was one of the ring lords. He's good. I even, years after I seen him, I sent him a message just out of the blue and thanked him for what we did the earlier years.
Ben Wolf said, hello, guys. What's going on, Mr. Ben?
Uncle Ben.
So let me ask you, what is the best part for wrestling for you? Was it the wrestling itself? Was it being a promoter? Is it, like you said, being in a family-oriented show for so many years? What is the best part of this for Jay Eagle?
Being a pro wrestler, man. Even at 68, I'm still an entertainer. I might not be the greatest wrestler, and it might take me longer to get up and longer to run across the ring, but when I can go out and see 20 guys younger than me not get the reaction I do, I feel like I'm doing something right. And when I mentioned quitting, I got 40 people saying no. So I told my wife I'd be at 60, so I lied.
Well, being okay, I'm not going to ask you or talk about how old you are, but being your age, have you ever thought about hanging the boots up and just being a promoter? I mean, they can't get mad at you if you're still in the business, right?
I'm 68, but that's what I love. If I had to just promote, there's headaches to promoting, Scott.
Right.
I mean, you're dealing with so many people. And
I know that.
Some wrestlers that thank you for what you do, and you got other ones that whine for what they do, and they whine for what they think they might do, and it just drives me crazy because there's no reason for it. It just, I do the best I can. No, Granny, go ahead. Is
Granny Eagle going to be there?
No, she's pregnant.
She's pregnant. Whoa! Wait a minute.
Oh yeah, she about died last year, but they saved the baby. You know what? I can't believe something so dumb people love so much. I mean, I come out dressed like an old woman and find me an old man on the front row and sit down beside him and lay my leg over on his leg. And I understand why I do it when I do stuff like that.
Right. A. Schuler wants to know, do you have any advice for up-and-coming wrestlers?
Yeah, find you a big rope and a tree and hang yourself from it. No, man, I'm kidding. I love it, man. I still, I'm going to try to make it to 70, but everything I got hurts. And so, it hurts to turn my neck, but it still, my wife can say I'm dying on Friday, but Saturday night I'm okay.
Right. You dying on Friday, but Saturday's showtime, right?
It don't matter if it's COVID or the flu. Saturday night. I mean, I've been too sick a few times, but we heard too much about that COVID that it drove us crazy.
Stephen Fry wants to know, do you want lettuce on your sandwich?
No mayonnaise, son. No mayonnaise.
Okay, no mayonnaise. I don't know who was the most flirty and funniest wrestler, Jay, Wahoo, or Buddy.
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 I couldn't hold a light to Buddy. He'd say, "Can I take your wife?" And I said, "Buddy, you couldn't even keep yours. How you gonna take mine?"
Oh, here we go. This is respect right here. Hey, Jay Eagle, I would love a match with you, brother, and I wouldn't even mind taking the fall. There you go,
Well,
Jamal.
that's the first. Most of them want to know how am I going to beat you, Eagle?
Oh my gosh, man. So, I mean, I have to say this, and it's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of people, and I'm not going to lie to you. There's a lot of people that talk bad about you, Jay Eagle, but you've been going for so many years. You got so much knowledge of the wrestling business up there. You've name dropped people that are unbelievable. How does it make you feel that some people just don't like what you're doing?
Well, I've always had to deal with haters. I mean, you know how many promoters have tried to do what I do and don't last a year? I mean, I don't understand these guys promoting stuff they're going to do 6 months from now when they ain't made it through the month. I mean, take care of what next week, and I'm going to tell you where a lot of promoters come from. If they wrestle for me and they don't like what I want them to do, or they don't go over, or they don't get to work who they want to, the show's the shits. But if they get to work who they want and they do what they want and they go over, oh man, it was the greatest thing since gravy. I mean, it's just a normal attitude of guys that's in the business. And
How do you feel? How do you feel about the wrestlers today that feel that they can't lose in the ring because losing in the ring will just make them look bad. Nobody will buy their merchandise. Nobody. How do you feel about that?
But the thing that draws the crowd is the crowd's feeling that the babyface has been cheated, but next week he's got them outsmarted. Next week he's going to win, and they keep coming back. But if the guys don't want to do that, everybody thinks they're the next big thing. And, it's just something you have to deal with, dealing with so many guys. And 9 out of 10 of them will stop by my desk to tell me what they want to do. but I keep that in consideration because when you're not paying them big money, you appreciate it with what they do.
Right. I mean, there might be some time, like you said, like we said earlier, there's diamonds in the rough. There might be somebody who'll walk into your office and say something, and it might be pure gold to your ears. You know what I'm saying? So you never know.
Right. I listen to them when they think I don't, but
right.
Like I say, I'm not going to say I've heard everything, but so many guys through the years have got mad at me because I won't do what they want, and I don't care. Yeah. And I've even had promoters come in, want to go in my dressing room and hit on my wrestlers. I'm talking about gay promoters. I tell them, get out of my building. And I could do some name dropping too, but I won't. But you probably got an idea.
Right. Chris Thunder Anderson said if some of these young guys would just shut up and listen, they would learn all kinds of things. Chief is still a foundation of knowledge. I agree with you 100%, Chris.
Well, I do listen to them when they think I don't, but they are just they don't see the big picture. They don't see the promoting. They think about but that was something I even think about my years of driving 3 hours to work a show for nothing just because I wanted to get my name out there, and it worked. Right. In my early years, I worked 2 or 3 times a week, and my wife would even say, "You're being gone too much." So,
but that's one thing. That's one thing that and I'll say this for young men and for young ladies, whoever the wrestler might be a young lady or a young man. If you're the wife or the husband, you realize that when you meet a wrestler is gonna put all his, if he really wants to do something in this business, he's going to be gone 2-3 days. He's going to take those long road trips to go wrestle. And I'm pretty sure your wife understands all this. She probably gives you hell about it, but she understands why you've done this because it's your life and you love it.
Well, she hears my phone ring all the time. Somebody wants me to go somewhere. But the biggest thing with my wife, I mean, she went with me a lot of years, but she does not like sitting out in the audience for 4 hours with people she don't know. Right. And you know me, I get in the dressing room with a bunch of guys, we cutting up, ripping, getting ready for a match, and then your match is over and they want to sit around and talk and I can
I
understand.
watch the same way when it comes to me. When I go to a wrestling show, I usually get there early so I can interview some wrestlers or find out what's going on, and I stay late afterwards. So I could get more interviews and I can talk. She knows what I do on the podcast, and I apologize to her all the way home every time I do it. I'm sorry, dear. No, it's what you love. Go ahead and do what you love. But when she comes and asks me to do something, I can't say no. You know what I'm saying? She lets me do what I love to do.
Well, she'll tell you in her heartbeat she's not a wrestling fan, but she married wrestling. So
there you go.
And
Without a doubt.
she enjoys the congregation of the people. She knows so many people. She'll be saying, "You know them holding people that own that boat place?" I said, "Honey, I don't know who you talking." "Yeah, you do. They there every week." I said, "Well, I don't mingle with the people. I don't even."
Now I could be wrong about this, but I have seen her do promos for your show. If I'm correct.
Well, if I keep her busy, that's just like 10 years for ACW. She just went with me for a few years, and then they hired her to announce. So that was double money for us, and she enjoyed it more. Because she does the concession stand because it's a business.
Right.
And, I let her do it because I want no part of it.
Missy said, "I love Rhonda Bragg. She is awesome."
Yeah, she is awesome, man. I don't know how she ever married an old ugly guy like me, but I was a good liar, so I got her hooked.
Mitch on YouTube said, "Shoot, I've worked for a soda pop, a hot dog and a soda pop." There you go.
Well, she's got killer hot dogs, so everybody loves her. That's the first thing I get on Saturday night. She goes before me and gets the kitchen open. I want a hot dog when I get in there.
What do you put on your hot dog?
I don't really know, but we've got a kitchen at the fair, and the sign says "Best hot dogs in town." She's got her own homemade chili. That's what.
Oh, there you go.
It's that good chili. So you can get. Personally, me, I like onions, mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, hot dog, chili.
Right. Wow, you like the works. I like that. That's the way I like my hot dogs. The works. Anything.
He put cheese on his. I don't even do that. But
Christopher said the APW hot dogs can't be beat.
That's right. And I want to say something about this too. This ain't really got a lot to do. But I want to mention my son, Dusty Money.
Okay.
As a young wrestler, I met a lot of promoters that had sons that wrestled that just couldn't really get it, but they still. And I've been blessed. I got a son that do stuff I couldn't do. He's an athlete, he's an acrobat, and he's full of bull. So I never know what's going to happen out of him.
Like they said nowadays, he's full of piss and vinegar, right?
Yes. And I heard people used to trash Bill Watts' son, Eric Watts, and I thought, God, I'm blessed to have a son that I'm not ashamed of. I didn't think Eric was that bad, but the other guys used to trash him.
I'll tell you, one of the best things as a fan, and I'm truly a fan. That's why I do my podcast. One of the best things I like to hear is third generation, fourth generation wrestler. That lets me know that whole family is into wrestling and they're just passing it down. There's nothing bad about that at all. That's awesome.
Man, I got 2 sons that wrestled. My brother wrestled. And I think if my grandbabies don't wrestle, I'll be surprised because I got a year-old grandson that's living with me, and he's my heart, man. I'm going to tell you, anybody wrestling.
I've seen pictures, sir, on your Facebook. That is totally awesome.
Yeah, I tell people he looks like a little Ivan Koloff with that bald head, but he's a little daredevil, and I've already got pictures of him in the ring, and my older grandson, they all been in the ring, but not all of them now, but some of them want to do it already.
Wow. So how do you feel about this generation? They're getting younger, Chief. You got 13 and 14-year-olds already training to get to 18 so they could, wrestle.
Well, I'm training guys that's grandsons of wrestlers that wrestle for me. Not just, I mentioned last night some of the sons, but I'm actually got grandsons. And I've had a lot of wrestlers get out of it that their kids will come by and say, I always wanted to do this, or when I get a little older, I'm gonna do this, and then you see them, they too old. So I just I've been blessed.
Jamal wants to know, what is your pay-per-view moment all time, even if you had created it?
Oh. I don't really know. I mean, I worked in Atlanta on PBS, and I think Wrestling Macho Man. I enjoyed that. It was on his TV. It wasn't here, but
Wow.
and I didn't know him before I went up there, but we just hit it right off. We was the same age, so we hit it right off.
Missy wants to she said, tell us about the Power Crew.
They're two young guys that come to work with me when I was at Chesney. One of them was like 6'6", weighed close to 300 pounds. And the other one was a shorter guy, Steve Stasiak. And that's two more I learned to love like my own sons. And they was from Georgia. They made the trip down every week. And I put a little manager with them and named him Dash Rip Rock. And that was some of the best hills that I had through that time, which I had a lot of them. Do you know Gus Bolick?
Not offhand.
Reverend Slim?
Yes, I do know that.
That's Gus Bolick.
Okay.
But he was doing a old-timey preacher gimmick for me. And he was so good, he would go out and take up money and pass the plate and get money.
I've seen that. I've seen videos of that.
He even had Bill Mudd as his deacon. He would pass the plate. We had a ball with some of that stuff too. And I had Jeff G. Bailey. He was a manager. We figured he'd get us locked up because when the thing happened in Union where you remember when Susan Smith killed her children, rolled them off into that John B. Lake?
Yes, I remember that.
Jeff B. Bailey went on my TV and said he was representing her.
Oh, no.
I mean, I tell you, I've had some nuts come through here, boy.
Wow, that is something. Scotty Dial, how you doing, man? He said IWA, Indians with Attitude.
That's another one of my illegitimate little sons. Well, that's little. That's 300 pounds of knowledge.
Right.
I love him. He's a Lumbee Indian that lives up at Pembroke or Lumberton. I don't know exactly, but we've been close since we met. When we worked for the ACW, the promoter, I was the chief, and I had 3 Indians, and they was a Tuscarora, a Cherokee, and a Lumbee. And he made us the Indians with Attitude, so that's where that's coming from.
I gotcha. That is
top heels on his show.
Wow.
A lot of Indians in that area.
That is, Missy said, I'm hoping to see you. She's talking about Scotty. So while we got a bunch of people watching right now, I'm gonna go ahead and promote the show again. April 2nd, American Pro Wrestling Reunion, 122 Builders Court in Boiling Springs. Tickets are $10. Doors open at 7. Bell times at 8. You're going to see a ton of wrestlers who have worked with Jay Eagle and APW through the years. This is just a few, the only some of the guys that I put on the poster, but trust me, there's going to be 50 plus wrestlers there that night. Chris Thunder Anderson's going to be there. Stone Mountain's going to be there. Of course, Mr. Jay Eagle's going to be there. Juvenile Delinquents, Boomer Payne, Ricky Rocket, Steve Stasiak, and Eric Anton, and many, many more. Every day I'm seeing more people that are saying, man, I used to wrestle with, even if they didn't wrestle at your show, I used to wrestle Jay Eagle. I'm going to be there. I think you're going to pack the place out that night, sir. I really do.
I think so. I've had a lot of returns just come through and holler at me in the last since we started back up.
Missy said Scotty Dial has the best chop in the business. He definitely made Wahoo proud.
Oh yeah, he puts his weight into it.
Now, right? I have to ask you something. Now you've seen wrestling throughout the years. You've seen all the changes. What was your favorite move to perform in the ring?
I think I've done a little everything, Scott. I wouldn't call anything. I used to do the flare flip in the corner, run down the side, climb the ropes, and do a chop back in the ring. I did that as a finish for a lot of years, but you don't do as much flipping and running when you get a little older. But I believe I could pull it off just to see if I could do it.
I'd pay to see that. I would pay to see you try.
Bring some cash with you on April the 2nd because I need the money.
Okay, there you go. There you go. It might happen. I would love to see you do that. That would make my day. So I have to ask, are you going to perform on April 2nd?
I'm sure I will. I mean, we've got people now that'll call and say, is Eagle wrestling this week? And I just tell them, yeah, because I go ahead and wrestle. So, well, I'm going to come when he wrestles. So I tell them, come now.
Right.
But I might not be able to next week. So.
Right. Scotty Dial said, thank you, Missy. And I also want to thank Missy because Missy's the one that got all this put together. She's calling all these wrestlers. She's getting a bunch of videos to me. I'm going to make a big commercial. I'm working on that. I'll have that done before this weekend's out. You saw the poster with all the wrestlers on it. She got me all those pictures, and she is really excited about this. And I want to thank Missy for getting all this together. And I want to thank Jay Eagle for saying, yes, we can definitely do that. Because this is what it's all about when it comes to us fans. I guarantee you there's going to be a ton of fans throughout the years that are going to show up to see somebody like Stone Mountain, who they haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, I think we need to plug the podcast that night at my show when we got all the fans watching, because I've actually found a couple of wrestlers that don't know it exists. I want to let everybody know at my building know about your podcast.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. I really do. I really do. And I will definitely, if you guys do promos and things like that, and you send me one or just say, hey, Scott, put somebody's promo up there, I would love for you to. I would be more than happy to put it on. I haven't done any commercials tonight, Mr. Eagle, or anything. Usually I run 3 or 4 commercials, promos, show things. I'm having so much fun. I forgot to even go over there and do any of that.
Thank you for having me on, Scott.
Oh man, it's been a blast.
We couldn't do without Missy neither. You know, that's
right. Missy and Chris Thunder Anderson are some good people. Their whole family is very special to me.
Well, you got news radio, news TV, newspaper, and you got Tell Missy. So that's the best way to get it out.
That's it, without a doubt. Well, Mr. Jay Eagle, you are more than welcome to come back on Hashtag Truth anytime you would like. I hope you do come back before you put your boots up for good. I would love to hear some more stories. I'm pretty sure you probably got 900 more that you could share.
Oh, yeah, this is hard remembering stuff when you're trying to remember. I've got 40 years of scrapbooks. If I go through them, you would not believe that was before the digital age come along, because we don't.
I tell you what, Jay. Since we got you on here and you said that, one of these days, how about Hashtag Truth comes to your house and we'll sit down with you, and we might even bring Brian and Harry and a couple of the other podcasters, sit down and go through those with you on air. Let people see the real history. Would you mind doing something like that?
Would you believe 20 years ago, George South wanted to borrow my books to look at, and I got them back in 3 pages that's filled with pictures of him? Ain't that a friend part?
I do believe that.
I give him a hard time. He says he's going to steal my wife. And I said, George, you couldn't even keep yours. How you going to steal mine? I love him to death.
I'm telling you, it's always great. So, Mr. Jay Eagle, if somebody wants to wrestle for American Pro Wrestling, how would they get a hold of you?
Hey, send me a face. I've got Chief Jay Eagle. I've got Jerry Bragg, my real name. I had a Jay Eagle for 30-something years. Somebody hacked me, and when I complained to Facebook, they just shut it down. So now I've got Chief Jay Eagle or Jerry Bragg. Send me a message. If you got a South Carolina license and you want to wrestle, that's what we here for. And if you go into a big group and you need to learn how the business works every week, how to get along with the guys, how to work together, that's what we do. I mean, you know, don't expect no big money, but expect a lot of knowledge, because I got a dressing room full of guys that want to help.
There you go, without a doubt. Well, there you go. Mr. Chief Jay Eagle on hashtag truth. I've loved every minute of this. Like, I think this is the only show I've done in the last year that I haven't done one commercial for. When you get somebody on that tells stories and keeps it going, I'm always all ears. I just can't help it. This has been an amazing interview. This has been one of my most favorite interviews I've ever done. I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard so much about you. I am going to get over to, I'm going to be there April the 2nd. High water, however it takes, I'm going to be there April the 2nd. I want to see all these wrestlers, and Luke Fury has been trying to get me to come there for months. You can thank Luke for that. He bugs me every time you guys have a show. He sends me a message. Scott, you got to come down here to Builders Court. We're going to have a good show. He loves promoting you. And from what I hear from everybody that's coming to the show on the 2nd, man, you are a very respected person, and you're filled with a bunch of knowledge, and I appreciate you coming on my show, sir.
Well, let me say this, as I tell them on Saturday night, Scott, if you're driving home, be sure you're in the car. Thank you.
Without a doubt. All right, guys. That is Chief Jay Eagle, April the 2nd. Let me put it up there one more time. April the 2nd, American Pro Wrestling Reunion at 122 Builders Court, Boiling Springs. There's going to be a ton of wrestlers. Doors open at 7 o'clock. Bell time's 8 o'clock. Tickets are $10 at the door. Chris Thunder Anderson, Stone Mountain, Chief Jay Eagle, the Juvenile Delinquents, Boomer Payne, Ricky Rocket, Eric Anton, Steve Saviak. Scotty Dial a little while ago said he might be there. There's going to be a ton of wrestlers there, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to miss this. If you grew up anywhere around this area and you know any of these wrestlers, you're going to have a great time at American Pro Wrestling. And that is the hashtag truth. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.